All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. It's your girl, Afnan Idris, and I have a super special guest. You guys, our first episode, and we have the perfect guest. Please, Abdulalim, introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Abdulalim. Honored, thank you for having me. Excited to be the first guest.
Yes.
I know it's something special being brewed here. So, from the Bay Area, from Berkeley, California, the founder of Everything, the brand, founder and CEO. Very excited. We just announced our official partnership with Araha, the American Relief Agency for the Horn of Africa.
Man.
Thank you. With our fall/winter collection 2022 that just released. And really excited that we're finally gonna be able to, something that's super important to me, being first generation Eritrean American, be able to make the world a better place in which ways we can, right? So Araha is an organization that's been working for 20 plus years in the Horn of Africa, working with refugees on many different projects. And the one we're taking on is going to be building homes for refugees in these refugee camps. So partial proceeds of our upcoming collection and all of our collections moving forward are going to go towards these types of development projects. Moving forward. So super excited about that.
I love your intro. So humble, mashallah. He's like, hi, I'm Abdulalim. What you need to know is that you need to donate right now to the Horn of Africa.
No, I mean, like...
But it's clear it's important to you, but like you're so humble, right? Because like
that.
in your intro, like of course you call out like being from the Bay, mashallah. But like I don't know if people around you really know like your story and how dope you are and like your mashallah tabarakallah, like your connection to tech. Right? Like, I have a feeling I'm going to walk away from this conversation totally mind blown. Even like our preliminary conversation, just getting ready for the podcast. Like, I feel like you're in the future, mashallah. Like, you're 20 years ahead. And I'm just like, wait, what are we going to be doing with technology?
It's moving real quick. And we're at a really interesting time, I feel, with technology and the way it's developing. And, with Web3 and blockchain technologies.
Okay, wait. Let's stop right there. Okay, so wait, what is blockchain? I know I'm not the only ones. If you guys are in the audience and you're watching on YouTube or, you're catching this on Instagram, like, let me know. Like, am I the only one who doesn't know what an NFT is or a blockchain or Web3? We went to Afrotech late last year.
Yeah.
And they had it was session after session was Web3. And I was like, pass.
Yeah,
I don't need to know this. And now I feel like you're about to tell me I should have been at those sessions.
100%. But just to get like a foundational knowledge. What I feel that is we're going to enter a world or a new era of technology that's going to be immersed in our everyday life. Like the real utility, there's going to be things that you're doing, new accessories that you buy, they're going to be connected to the blockchain, for example, glasses. Facebook has a partnership with Ray-Bans that's going to have glasses that have already camera functionality, but some of them are going to have augmented reality functionality. So you're out in the world, there might be things you don't see with the Play Now app, but you put the glasses, you're going to see things kind of pop out, messages could pop out. So that's the kind of world that we're kind of moving towards. And then especially in the gaming industry, we're seeing virtual reality. Companies like Roblox and games like Fortnite kind of really taking folks into another world. It's like Sims on steroids, I feel like, is kind of where
Sims on steroids.
I can see that.
Going. Okay, so give us like, for the listeners who are not super tech savvy or not up to speed, like give us like a basic understand of like what blockchain is, what Web3 is.
I do my best. I do my best. Not like I wouldn't say I'm the expert of experts, but from my understanding, my knowledge, it's blockchain technology is really a system of record. And what's really valuable about it is that it's completely decentralized. So this isn't mean like one company owns an entire infrastructure, right? Like Facebook owns not just Facebook, but Instagram and WhatsApp now, and whatever happens on those platforms, Facebook can take it away from you, for example.
So what is it keeping a record of exactly?
So it's a record, for example, a product. It could be a picture. So
like a patent, kind of?
I would say like a patent. It would be a system of record that is a mathematical equation that's constantly changing and can't be changed, right? It's from my understanding at this point. And it can be attached to anything, right? Like, we saw the NFT phrase, like, in 2022.
I saw people, like, had pictures and graphics and
Bored
photographs.
apes.
Something about Tory Lanez, like, made 2 million or $1 million in 2 seconds. What was that?
Just, there's so many different use cases, so many different things, and so many folks are, like I said, it's really, the advent of new technology is a crazy time because people are trying to find ways to use it and like where value is. And so like you saw crazy money being spent, right? You saw crazy companies coming out of the blue and becoming like the whole FTX thing we're seeing now being crashing.
Or even crypto, like that like came by storm.
But crypto technology has been here for, I want to say minimum 10 plus years. It's like
So I've been in the Stone Age. Thank you.
But it's like everyone, you know what I mean? Like I felt like I first got into like a Bitcoin and Ethereum probably 2016, 2017. Like just hearing about it.
Wait a minute. Okay. See, all right. So let's start off from like where you grew up, because you are like my age, and you said that you were in crypto in 2016. Like I was excited. I was just finding out about like being debt free at that point, and like Dave Ramsey when that was like a cool thing to do. And you, like I said, mashallah, like you're like 10 years in the future. So let's start from the beginning, right? Like for the audience who doesn't know you, right? Like tell us about like your upbringing, in the Bay, and like what was that experience like?
Yeah. So growing up in the Bay, I'm the oldest of four. I have three younger brothers. My parents immigrated to the States in the 80s and 90s. My dad settled in the Bay Area. His reasoning being, you know, the climate was the closest to back home. So he was like, I'm staying
back
here.
Back home, Eritrea.
Exactly. And so, you know, like we grew up, you know, we didn't have immediate family around. But we had the blessing really of like a strong community. Like there's a strong Eritrean Muslim community in the Bay Area, spanning from like Sacramento all the way down to like San Jose. And our parents really made it a point, you know, for them to not only just preserve their culture and their religion and pass it down to their children, but also give us an environment to get to know each other, to kind of really grow up together. And then, you know, things that our parents couldn't relate to, we'd be able to worked with through other folks in our community who've gone through it before us, right? So like being able to have that, being the oldest especially, like I found so much value in having older folks that I could like turn to for advice, or like, hey, like I heard about this, or them putting me onto things like, oh, like college, for example, things like that, things that we're not exposed to or just know about off the bat, right? Being first generation. But growing up in Berkeley, like it was this is before tech really took the entire Bay Area by storm, right? It was, you know, an affordable place to live at a certain point, which is kind of hard to believe now, right? But it just, things changed so rapidly with tech. My youngest brother was born in 2007, and same time as this, you know, stock market crash and the economy in a really bad place, and just things really, really difficult time. And I remember like at that same time, like the iPhone was like becoming a thing, and the iPod Touch was becoming a thing. I remember my cousin, she got an iPod Touch. It was the first time I'd ever seen something like that. Yeah. We remember the iPod Nanos 100%. And stuff like that, right?
They were the coolest
thing. Like they had those
was on all of our Eid wish lists.
That's it. That's what we wanted, right? But like when the iPod Touch came out, and then like you're like, wait, so what is Apple? Like, and this is like I'm around 12, 13. Like what is? I keep hearing like Silicon Valley. You keep hearing these things, but you're just like, you don't realize it's only 40 minutes away from you.
Oh, so very close, yeah. Because I'm not. Some of the people are listening are not familiar with the geography, but you guys are like in their backyard.
No, it's right here. Like not backyard. Like this is Silicon Valley. The entire Bay Area is really Silicon Valley. Some of these companies are in San Francisco. Some of them are in Palo Alto, Mountain View. Some of them are in Oakland, and you know, you're hearing about like Apple, and like, yes, Apple is a huge thing, but like as a child who like
you're a kid at that point.
You're a kid. You don't know what all these things are, and let alone like how big Apple is or whatever. And I just remember at the time it was like MySpace was the thing, right?
Man.
Like, I never even had a MySpace.
You never had a MySpace?
We didn't have a computer at the house even.
Wow.
Like, it wasn't like we weren't like super technology, like, you know, like
we
had a PlayStation for, you know, that was kind of the first thing, but like we didn't have like a computer we were just on the internet with, you know. Back then you had to take the phone line out.
I remember.
You know what I mean?
You know what, growing up, like my dad wouldn't let us watch TV. Like we didn't have a TV when we were growing up. And when we did for a little bit, we could only watch like Zoom. Do you remember Zoom?
No.
It was something on PBS.
I do. The
PBS TV show.
That was my dad. My dad said only PBS.
Yeah, it was that or NBC and like all of the news stations basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can totally relate to just having the computer. So for us, we had a computer because we weren't allowed to have the TV, and my dad felt like that was safer. But it's so interesting because not long after
you learn, right?
it becomes like, the gateway.
It's funny. That's a whole nother topic, but like if people like what accelerated the rise of the internet, like you know, it was like the worst of the internet is what accelerated it, right? And a lot for the technology to develop. But for us, like we just didn't have a computer. Like it was just like, you know, I remember back then if you wanted to do anything on the internet, you had to plug the phone out.
And then nobody could call.
Nobody could call. What is this?
The
like,
AOL sound.
The dial-up. The dial-up, man.
Do you remember the CDs you used to get in the mail?
The Rams, right? Yeah. The Ram CDs? Come on now. Come on now. But
you'd be like, oh, your neighbor wasn't even.
But I'm not that old. Like I don't want to date myself.
Okay,
not you. I'm not saying you. I'm saying like, you know how there be people like, oh, I'm back in my day. No, I'm still. relatively young. But it's funny because I think it was at the transition.
Yeah.
Like, it was really at that right transitional period, like, where the advent of the internet with things where 2006 is when the YouTube came out and, like, really, like, spread the internet kind of, like, global, right? It became a thing where you can go watch crazy things on YouTube. And I remember around that time just hearing these companies and just kind of, like, what is this? And then you get older and you get, like, real life starts affecting your reality. So, like, during, like I said, 07, 08, economy crashed. But housing markets in the Bay Area skyrocketed, right? And they've been skyrocketing ever since. And, we ended up moving around a lot around that time just to keep up, with like rent prices in the Bay Area. And that started making me think about, like, okay, like, what's going on? Like, why are we moving so much? Why am I on Wikipedia, or not Wikipedia, Craigslist, looking for housing at, I was like 13. I found one of our houses.
As the oldest.
As the oldest, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you
parent.
found it, yeah. So it's just like understand, okay, like money. Okay, how do people make money? What are paying jobs? Oh, doctors or lawyers is what you hear, right?
But a lot of your influence sounds like because of where you were at the Bay Area, it was tech.
It was 100%. So, like, just being exposed to, like, tech at an early age, like,
and startups, it sounds like too, because YouTube was still pretty new at that time.
Every company was a startup. Right? Yeah. Like, think about it like that. Like,
all the stuff that's mainstream
everything now. Facebook was a startup.
That's crazy.
Twitter was a startup. Uber, DoorDash, like, all these, like, service companies were startups. And I remember because we got to see them and use them first because they were operating.
Give me an example.
In the Bay
What do
Area.
you mean?
DoorDash, for example.
Okay.
We were some of the, like, me and my friend group, like, we were some of the first DoorDash drivers. Like, right around the time we were all able to get licenses, DoorDash became, they're like, oh, you could get money to, and, like, what's good about tech, there's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, like,
y'all saw dollar signs.
Not even we see, like, they were paying well for drivers. Like,
now.
In the beginning. Wow. So, like, we were like 16, 17, 18, like, making pretty good money. Like,
was that weird? Like, I'm gonna go pick up some random person's food. Like internally, like, what's the conversation you're having with yourself when you did your first like
DoorDash.
Run? Yeah, DoorDash. I feel like, and then you're like paid. Like,
Uber came first, and I remember, like, Uber being the craziest concept, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's like, oh, don't ever do Uber. You strangers' cars. Why would you do that?
It's dangerous.
But then it became normal. I'll never forget the first time I think one of my friends told me, oh, yeah, we're calling it Uber. I said, what? Like, no, we're gonna walk. Like, but, like, it was really like it became
it's genuine fear.
And you just see, like, folks, like, no, it's just like, it's just very new, right? And you just feel like, and then you see how adoption works. Like, people, it becomes a norm. So now it's like, what do you mean? What's a taxi?
Yeah, what's a taxi?
What's a taxi?
So crazy,
right? Taxis are foreign. Now it's only in foreign countries that you feel like you're taking taxis anywhere. It's Uber everywhere, right?
It's kind of like, yeah, if you ask Gen Z, like, show me the hand sign that they're on the phone, they do this with their hands. And that's so weird because their iPhones are flat while millennials will do this.
I've never seen somebody do that. That's crazy.
Ask, like, your younger cousins, anybody.
I'm going to see, like, how they do a phone call.
They're going to do this, like this. And you're like, what? It's this.
That's crazy.
But why? Because when we were growing up, there was the rotary
phone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Why you calling them?
But yeah, that's like, so, like, seeing, like, consumer behavior change in real time, right? Like people were doing things differently than they did before because of new technology. So, like, I felt like everything I feel like I became numb to things like, oh yeah, it's new. Okay, let's do it, because everything was new, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so, like, becoming a DoorDash driver, like, you go to a restaurant, you pick up the food, everything's in the app. The map is embedded in there. Like, it tells you where to go, where to drop it off. The people can give you cash tips. They can tip you in the app as well. It was just, like, such an easy way to make money, and, like, the best part about it's on your own time.
Mm-hmm. There's autonomy.
There's no schedule.
And
nobody
got that
owns
message, like, from a young age.
Like, we were young, like, super, super young, right? And then, like, for us, like, around that same time is kind of where I formed a lot of, like, my
core beliefs,
core beliefs, economic principles, like, what I wanted for myself. Like, I learned a lot young because of, like, the economic situation, 08, 09, whatever. Like, how coming out of that, like, okay, never be in debt, like, don't for anything. Like, right, that's not an option. If you're gonna, you gotta go to college, get scholarships and then work your way through college, kind of thing. But, like, be in a position where you have to have your own thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're exposed to all these tech companies and tech startups, and, like,
the spirit of entrepreneurship.
And, like, around that same time is when I started what's now Everything the brand. It was a different brand, like, different name, t-shirt, like, different idea, not as forward thinking as we are now, but, like, that spirit, that experience, and those experiences at that time are really what shaped to where we are today.
Yeah. So So you talk about your experience in the Bay and how transformative it was having such strong influence from Silicon Valley being so close, right? Tell us about how you went from doing like your first one of the first DoorDash drives, right? To then you have like everything the brand.
Yeah. A lot, it's funny, like a lot of that time period was just like understanding how much money there was out there, and almost like irrationally. Like everyone around you comes from like a certain financial background, or sort of nobody's like used to like big money numbers or whatever. And at that time, it's like you're seeing how much you're getting paid as a DoorDash driver because this company can pay you that. Okay, so what are they making? Right? Like, well, how do they get some? Oh, venture capital. What is venture capital? Oh, people. It's just a company that invests in other companies to be successful. Mm-hmm. People give money for free,
which like contradicts everything your parents tell you.
Right? It's like nothing's for free, and then you realize no, it's ownership. You know, and then how you understand how VCs work, and you understand how tech works, and like just being exposed and like knowing people who worked at certain companies and like getting their experience. Like how does that work? How does that industry work? And then for me, it was like at the end of the day, it was about the dollars. Like I need to make as much money as possible, as young as possible.
Because you're the oldest too. You feel that's a responsibility.
100%. It's like I know wholeheartedly. I am my parents' retirement. Like me and my brothers, we are the retirement plan.
Can we just have a sidebar conversation? Because I think they're like folks who are the oldest understand what it's like, but it would be really interesting to hear for you your experience. Like obviously, like you're in Silicon Valley, you get to see all these emerging businesses, like the light bulb is starting to go off, you can make money. But what was some of like your family experiences that really fed like that hunger for it?
Directly correlated. It was direct correlation with my youngest brother being born. Like a direct correlation to seeing like, okay, what struggling financial times can do, right? And then like, okay, that added responsibility of like, hey, both my parents have to work full time. So like I am raising a child. And you ask anyone who grew up in the Bay Area around us at that time, I was a dad. Like ask anyone around, I was a full parent. Diapers, walks, whatever you could, food, bathing, anything you could think of, I did.
Did you go to parent-teacher conference?
All right, I didn't go that far. By the time he was in grade school, you know what I'm saying? Like
I feel like real old. I'm not to disqualify your
of course.
Like, I'm the oldest of 7, right?
Okay.
Yeah, she's just like, okay, that's different level, bro.
That's a lot.
So I'm the oldest of 7. And at some point, because I'm 31, my brother's a year younger than me, a year younger. So like we're stair step.
Yep.
And then it's 3 years, 2 years. So we're very close. So at some point, there's just not, especially if we're in the same school and it's happening at the same few hours, there's just not enough parents to go to all the parent-teacher conferences. I absolutely sat in parent-teacher conferences like, hi, I'm here on behalf of Mustafa Idris, and I'm here to listen to what's going on with this child. Like that.
And you're attending the same school?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. They know me because I'm going to pick them up from class and drop them off before my parents pick them up.
Yeah.
Right? So like, they know who I am. They're like, oh, fine. Okay, so tell your parents. Like signing reading logs.
That's so funny.
100%, right? So like I get what you mean when you say like a full-time parent.
Yeah. It's like you have a very, very big hand in like 100%. Maintaining, like, because you know your parents got to work and things got to happen at the house as well.
Yeah.
And so like just that experience alone, I think like this like my entire maturity level I feel like changed overnight. And it was just like before, like I was still like at that time like basketball was the most important thing to me. I just loved playing basketball. I really enjoyed it, and I was just trying to play as far as I could. Like didn't have like a real like level. Like I want to make the NBA, right? But then I think around like 7th, 8th grade, I was playing travel ball, and I was like, okay, I think I can play in college. Like from what I'm seeing, like whatever. And you know, with just real life situations happening, like you just learn, okay, like we have to sacrifice certain things. Okay. The basketball in high school is not going as you planned. You have good grades. Okay, college. Okay, you can go to a top university. Shout out and I figured that out through our community. I didn't know much about the college system or how it worked or the application process.
Like our parents, yeah.
Right. I wasn't, and I remember the first person who ever put college in my head, I think was like Huda Adam.
Adam. Shout out to freaking Huda Adam.
It was like she was just like asking me about how high school was because she was going to Cal, which is like a few blocks from my high school. And so she's like, "How is it?" I was like, "Yeah, alhamdulillah." She's like, "What are your grades?" Like I told her, she's like, "Oh, you can go straight." Like I was like, "What do you mean you can go straight? Straight where?"
Where are we going?
I was like, I'm trying to play basketball. Like, and then it wasn't until like my junior year of high school where like now you understand like okay, college a little bit more, and you're like, okay. Like, basketball's not going the way you plan. Okay, like, you have good grades. Like, just double down, keep the grades up, and try to go to, like, a strong university. Alhamdulillah, it worked out. Like, alhamdulillah, like, I went to UC Davis, graduated in 2019.
Mashallah. Shout out to UC Davis. My husband went to Davis. You
Yeah,
guys,
shout out Fred.
I don't think you guys actually, you guys weren't there at the same time though, right?
No. But I was close with people he was very close with.
Very cool, mashallah. Small world.
Wallahi small world.
Yeah, shout out to Huda. So in terms of like your transition, right? Like you're growing up really fast. Are these explicit conversations you're having with your parents about like, right? It's something about being the oldest that it's like, it never has to be said, but you just know. You're responsible.
You're doing,
you need to figure it out.
Yeah, it's like one of those like, hey, like I have to work, watch your brothers. Like haluam, you know, you hear that all the time. Watch your brothers, watch your brothers. And just like the youngest one is like, okay, we gotta feed him, change his diaper, gotta do this, gotta do that, which is cool. And then now it's funny because now he's starting high school.
Yeah,
he started his
is that
freshman
wild
year.
For you?
He's like 6'2". Like I'm looking at him like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
You know, but alhamdulillah, it wasn't explicit. It wasn't like this is what needs to be done. It's like we're gonna make it work. Hey, we need you got to do this, and this. All right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like definitely wasn't necessarily easy, right? Like as a kid, you're like, why do I got to do this? Like, but at the same time, things need to get done.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think like, you know, you start thinking more long term, thinking for the bigger picture. What's the bigger picture? I think around that time is when, like I said, started the brand around the same time.
You started the brand before you even got to college?
Yeah.
Wait.
It started as a t-shirt brand at the end of my sophomore year of high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were trying to feed a whole family of 6, mashallah.
Nah, that's what I was trying to do, just to make money. Like the goal was just like, how can we make some added money? Like how pocket money, right? It's like, how can I get pocket money?
Like I'm just thinking about like the influence of like we call them unfair advantages. I'm reading a book called Unfair Advantages, where it's just like circumstances that are like not necessarily in your control, but that are formative to who you grow to be. 100%. So you have the aspect of you being the oldest. You have Silicon Valley in your backyard, right? You're also influenced by other people. I'm sure that you're seeing making money,
100%.
right? And at some point you arrive to the decision like, I need to be an entrepreneur, and no, not later. We got to do it now.
It was like, hey, the conversation was literally as simple as, hey, I saw it's not hard to make a brand. It's two of my friends at the time. Like, you guys trying to do it?
Yeah.
And like not knowing where to get stuff made, whatever. Just the idea of like Instagram and social media is like a tool to like push stuff. And I ran enough lemonade stands when I was a kid to like understand that like, okay, we could, you know, piece up some money, get like a couple t-shirts made and see what happens. And like summer we released our first t-shirt, and the company was called Stoute Everything.
Wait. So it wasn't always everything the brand.
No, Stoute means everything in Italian.
Okay.
You know what our logic was?
You're smiling.
We need something foreign.
I love that.
We need something foreign, right? That was literally our logic. We want something. Literally, one of our homies was like part Italian, and you know his family, and like we're like, you know, we're gonna do this, you know, it's foreign, you know, Gucci,
exotic,
some
bro.
Stoute, right? And we rocked for like two and a half years. Like we became like pretty big in our high school. Like people were buying and rocking our stuff. It's weird. Like to this day, I'll be walking around Berkeley and I've seen people wearing stuff from.
You're kidding.
I swear to God. And so at that time we decided to dissolve it. Like we were just, you know, kind of go do our out there. We're all super still close still at the time. And then when we got to Davis, like I had a couple conversations with folks. Like some people were like, "Oh, when's the next drop?" And I was just like, "Oh, like I don't think we're gonna do it anymore." This is folks in the community, Hamada, Aman, and they're like, "What? What you mean?" I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Nah, like if you, it was like, nah, you had something, like you should keep doing it, like you had something, like whatever." And I was like, I did enjoy it, like, you know, and so like I hit up my homies again, like, "Hey, you guys still trying to do this?" And one of them was like, "Nah," the one who's the one Dave was like, "Yeah, I'm down." And so for another, I want to say close to a year, we went like, you know, produced like another collection. That's when we first started incorporating film and storytelling. We documented some stuff at that time, and released like some collections. And then him and I realized like we had different kind of visions, and like we wanted to go in different directions. He was more music and design oriented. I was more like on the fashion, but like business, and like wanted to kind of stay in that lane. And I want to say in like 2017, like just kind of thought about like, what did I want to do exactly? You know, we had like, I've been through the process of creating clothing and selling it online. We've done like some storytelling here and there. But what is this platform? Why do I like this so much? And like, I realized that like I had passion. Like I was really passionate about merging like the creative world and the business world. Yeah. I felt like I was enjoying that element to business, or I can create something and then like create a business off of it, right? And I remember it was a photo shoot we were doing before me and my friend decided to go our separate ways. And one of the B-roll shots, I just like posted on Instagram, and I typed in, the caption was, "What's your everything?" First time I ever said those sentences. I was like, oh, that's kind of fire.
Yeah.
Because it was two-toe everything at the time. And then I was like, you know, the two-toe part doesn't mean too much to me. Like, now, you know, a little older, I don't care about, like, you know, we want some foreign, right? It doesn't matter too much.
The foreign's not the vibe
yeah,
anymore.
I'm like, what does it mean? It's like everything. Like, it's direct. And that question, what's your everything? I think like it was a really strong premise. And I remember having a conversation with Aman, who ended up becoming our director of technology, explaining to him the idea of like this one, and he was just like, whoa. Like, and we had like hour-long conversations over time, like a bunch. And because I was in Davis and he had actually recently moved to Sacramento, we started linking up and like kind of talking to him. And I spent a year kind of like formulating what I wanted to do with this platform. How did I want to grow it? Or, you know, have a brand, like, what does it mean? Okay, what's your everything is going to be our premise. Like, this is, because this is my everything. I'm showcasing my everything as we grow this company. We're going to, you know, continue to create clothes, but, like, how do we grow a business, right? Like, I see how these tech companies are going, like, what are they doing? Okay. And I remember watching an interview from Steve Stoute.
Okay.
Steve Stoute.
The music exec, right?
Exactly. You know, old, like, New York, coming up with, like, he was Nas's manager, and stuff like that. And he, through his company Translation, and at the time was also, or later on released United Masters or started United Masters, but Translation was a marketing company. And like, he was basically the person who bridged hip hop into mainstream or corporate America, right? For example, the McDonald's jingle. Right?
Yeah, I feel like that was the beginning of hip hop being mainstream. Like the ba-da-da-da-da,
exactly,
100%.
exactly.
100%.
And so like he did that in like the mid 2000s, right?
So on top of like your influence of the Bay, now you have hip hop as an influence.
Hip hop, I would say, is one of the strongest influences growing up because like you're listening
Really?
to, yeah, for sure. Like coming up, like I loved music. Like I really, really loved music. Like I wrote for a little bit. Like there was like times in my life where I was like, oh, you know, I could do this, whatever.
What kind of music were you listening to?
Oh, hip hop and R&B. I love R&B.
What were your favorite artists growing up?
Growing up, like it was definitely like J. Cole, Wale, Big Sean. Like right when they were coming
you
up.
say that when you're growing up that you were listening.
Right. Like it was like their rise. Lupe Fiasco was my favorite.
I love
like
Lupe
for the longest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lupe Fiasco is incredible. And like Lupe Fiasco is super relatable because it's like, oh, you're Muslim, like talking about like your experience and like, but then like, for example, like, you know, Kanye West as well, like huge influence. But it's just like the hustle culture, right? And then obviously like being Eritrean, like and being from California, Nipsey Hussle, right? Nipsey Hussle was huge to us, like, you know, growing up in high school and stuff like that. Like who is this? Oh, he's Eritrean.
Yeah.
He's from SoCal.
Everybody loves Nipsey.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but like with Nip, to me was like, whoa, like hold on, your business is different. Like you're talking about business on music. It doesn't happen too often.
He was on a totally different level,
completely,
I think.
Completely.
Yeah.
And so like listening to him, like I said, I felt like it was reaffirming things that I believed about business and how to maneuver, and like you have value, and like, you know what I mean? Like you should put yourself in a position to where you can control the things you want to control.
Mashallah, like you're super young at this point where you're thinking about like all of these things. Like, well, where is your family at? Where are your friends at? Like, are these conversations you're having openly, or is it just kind of like you and your best friends?
Yeah, like I mean, like when we started the t-shirt line, we talk about certain things, like, oh, did you hear this? And like, but like our friend group shared, like, you know, the music, hip hop. Like we had a lot of the same artists we're listening to, like yes, Big Sean and J. Cole and Wale and, you know, Kendrick at the time. But then at the same time, like I like Meek Mill, like that was my guy, like I hooped, you know what I mean? So like pregame, that kind of stuff. So, you know, Chicago drill was coming up, like, you know, Chief Keef and that. So it's just like hip hop in general, but like the things that like the storytelling of certain folks really, like Lupe Fiasco, J. Cole, Wale, and then Nipsey like really took me in, and then Nipsey took me to another world of like business where I was like getting into this like entrepreneurship and business and trying to figure things out. And
is it just you then in your friend group that's seeing this and that's experiencing this, or is like this an experience that you're going through with everybody else?
I'd say like it's funny, like it's not like there's a shared experience of everybody knows who these folks are, right? But I feel like the things that I was taking away from these artists were different.
Yeah, right? You're like on some visionary type
I see
stuff.
like listening to J. Cole. Friday Night Lights is like my favorite, probably my favorite tape of all time personally.
Yeah.
And listening to him on that tape just talk about the come up, right? Like
His
just talk about
journey,
like
his
your
story.
journey, like what does it mean to start at something and to grow that, right? And like what did that look like for them? And we did that. Like to me, I internalized those stories. Like, you know, you got, if you want to build something special, like you have to start somewhere and keep going. So like hip hop, I feel like gives you that drive to like continue. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, these are real life stories of people who have been successful in whatever they've done. And so when I got to college and like I'm formulating this brand, and like Nipsey is like a huge inspiration, like Jay-Z becoming a bigger inspiration, seeing Steve Stoute bring hip hop culture into mainstream tech, and then growing up in the Bay Area, having seen tech, I'm like, okay,
all of those forces kind of coming together.
there's an element where we can maneuver and pick up here.
What do your parents say about all of this? Because like at this point, you're saying people are walking around with your shirts. Like, you know, there's like a movement here.
It's funny because they're not seeing it, right? They're not high school with me. They're not like they're not seeing.
They had no idea.
Not that they had no idea. They knew that I was making clothes, but like didn't
but
think
they don't
too
understand
much
the
of
impact.
it. Right, exactly.
Got
So like
you.
I remember the first time I feel like my dad like really kind of like saw like, oh, hold on, this is something.
Yeah.
It was like EMC 2017.
What's EMC for those who don't know what that is?
Eritrean Muslim Community. We have a conference annually. And so the annual conference every summer, second weekend of July. And a bunch of people were wearing like a collection we had released.
Okay.
And so my dad like see it everywhere, and then he was like, he grabbed me, he was like, hold on, like I think somebody came to him, was like, hey, what the, like, is this your son's stuff, whatever?
Yeah.
Whatever. He was like, yeah. And he looked at me, he's like, this is everybody here. I was like, yeah, because it's online, it's e-commerce, so I'm handling shipping by myself. I'm on, you know what I mean, like marketing. My parents weren't on social media kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like now, like they're seeing it now. It's become like, okay, once you get that first degree audience, right, and then you get out of that first degree, you get to that second degree, and then like you have that tertiary degree of audience. Like that's when people start in your first degree start saying, hold on,
recognizing.
Like, hold on, like exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so like,
what's their response? Like your dad sees this, and then what does he?
He's
say?
just like at first they would give you the traditional like, why are you studying economics? Why are you studying business?
Why aren't you a doctor?
Yeah,
Look how smart you are.
Like, how about this? How about, you know, like why this? It's like, nah, like business. Like, I want to do business. Like, okay, what does business mean? Like it's very vague, ambiguous. Business is really what you make it, right?
Right.
And so for me, it's like I had like this clear vision.
It seems like that. It seems like because of the way you were brought up and your experiences, like you had a very clear understanding of what you were trying to accomplish.
100%.
And it almost feels like in a vacuum, right? Like you're so far into the future. And I think I said that at the top of the episode, mashallah, like you had a very clear understanding of where you were trying to go.
That was really what the plan, right? It was just like, okay, hey, what does this look like for myself? How can I, and then creating a plan to execute on it. And 2017, 2018, that time frame, I remember creating a plan off of that Steve Stoute video I told you I watched, where he kind of
gave you the blueprint, right?
He laid down like I feel like a blueprint that was new, something I'd never seen before in a business space. And that was, in his opinion, the three things every business needs moving forward is storytelling, culture, and technology.
Oh, that's super powerful.
Right? Like that was his kind of, and he's talking to Silicon Valley executives, telling them this.
In the address, yeah.
In his address. And I watched that. I was like, hold on. Like, okay, like we dabbled with storytelling early on. We are culture, like the clothing we produce, but like even who we are, like
we make up the culture.
We make up the culture,
100%.
And then the technology, I got to figure that out. What is the technology piece?
So you felt like, okay, I have the first two, but this third piece is what the missing. Okay.
And so I started reaching out to Aman, like talking to him about like, hey, what would be something that we could attach that would make sense? It has
What made
to
you
make
reach
sense.
out to him though? Is it?
I wanted somebody I grew up with my whole life.
Okay.
So he's somebody I know has been like, you know, invested in this space and has a lot of knowledge in this space, but also has the creative background from, you know, his music background, to give, like, to understand the insight I'm looking for, if that makes sense.
Did he have like experience like with tech?
Aman?
Yeah.
Yeah, like he was developing stuff. Like the first time I ever seen what code looked like was because of Aman.
Wow.
Yeah, like this is like Thanksgiving. We're talking about, he's like, I'll show you what it looks like, a language. I had him explain it. Like, what do you mean you're building something, you're typing on a keyboard?
Wow.
And he's like, no, like it's like a language. I was like, what do you mean it's like a language? And like, alhamdulillah, like I speak a good amount of languages. And I was like, language is, okay, if it's a language, I should be able to be good. But then it's like, to me, it's like a foreign language. Like he pulls up a black screen and starts typing.
Looks like the damn Matrix.
I'm like, what is this? At that point, I haven't even seen the Matrix. I was like, what is this? Yeah,
that's super early.
Exactly. So I was just like,
has it like occurred to you like how unique that experience is? Like not only like, so we've talked about it a few times, but I really want to like draw a point to it. Like being so exposed to, like, I didn't get exposed to that until like college, like, right, like one of my majors was information systems, but the fact that you had friends who were actively showing you coding before you had even seen the Matrix, right?
Yeah, like I remember watching the Matrix, I think in high school. This is probably like 7th, 8th grade. I'm like,
wow,
all I care about hooping, but like I'm saying like, okay, so Amon knows this. He knows how to code.
And then you have this exec that you're exposed to because of the internet
On YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube, super early. Like, what kind of kid were you?
It was
watching?
just a time. No, okay, yeah, I was still
I'm
like,
not judging because like,
no, you're
mashallah,
good.
you're
Yeah.
successful, but like,
no, it was.
wow.
I was really focused. Like, it was really just basketball. Like up until like from middle school and high school, and then I think high school is when the transition happened to like more business, thinking more long term, and then like college where I came across the Steve Stoute video, right? Seeing that in college, but it's like every single life experience I feel like played into the next, and kind of like created this holistic approach that I have. So, like to us or to me, like when I was formulating this plan, I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna create a 2-year and a 5-year plan, and I want to build this to this point. And my goal was, because like understanding, like I told you, like certain principles, like for me going to college wasn't about necessarily education. It was about getting that degree so I could go to Silicon Valley and get a job. It was
strategic.
It was literally about just money. I was like, I need to work in tech.
So I think it's incredible that you knew back then that tech was the answer. So,
but it wasn't like a crazy concept. Like all my friends were like, you know what I mean? Like
because of where you grew up.
Because where we grew up out here. It's like, okay, like we had friends who wanted to be lawyers. I have friends who wanted to be, I have like two friends who wanted to be lawyers that are now working in tech. Like, you know what I mean? Like not in the legal field. And it's just the reality of the environment you live in, and like being exposed to like opportunity and like real life happening. And it's like, hey, we need to make money. You know what I mean? Like, and like we're in a real opportunity to make good money. Yeah. And now it's funny seeing tech kind of expand, like go east. Typically everything goes from east to west, like
except the tech went the other way.
Tech is the one thing that came like west to east. Yeah. And we're talking about the most west part of the world. Yeah. Which is interesting, right?
Very interesting, mashallah.
But yeah, like once I got that triangle blueprint from Steve Stoute, I kind of like wanted to approach him. You know, Amon had the conversation. We were talking about different things, and it was actually through NIP that I first ever saw what augmented reality was. Like Nipsey and Idris Sandhu.
Who's Idris Sandhu? I was like, so you put me on to him. I didn't know who he was.
He's the founder of Spatial Labs. They're a VC incubator, and he's building some companies in there. One of them being Link. Link went. They had their first launch earlier this year, back in March. No, May.
And you said they do augmented reality?
No, what they do is like back to the blockchain, very deep technical infrastructure. Like Idris Sandhu himself is like a very accomplished, I want to say prodigy, really. Like someone who was found by a Google exec in a library on accident. Wow. Because he had the book that Google exec was looking for, and he was like 13. He's my age right now. No, he's responsible for the search. He's the one who built out the search engine in Instagram. Wow. Right? Like, so things like that. So he's building this company. But like Nipsey, like him and Nipsey's story, they met at a Starbucks in LA. And Idris was doing something on his laptop, building some stuff. And Nipsey saw something. He's like, I've never seen that before. And he was doing like motion sensors with his hands. Wow. And it was being reflected onto the laptop. Crazy. And he was like, Nip was just stopping at Starbucks to take his daughter to the bathroom. And he sees him, he sits down, like, hey, what is this? Like, and then from there they went and like they built like the Marathon Smart Store.
I remember when I saw your augmented reality when you had a drop, and I remember thinking like, oh, that reminds me of that, because that's the first time I had seen it. That was
the first time I saw it. And for us, we're like, this is such a unique and cool way to like tell the story, right? Yeah. And to give your user or your customer or your anyone in your community, your audience, exclusive content, or a level of exclusivity where they feel like they're a part of something that not everybody else is. So for us, like when we did our first augmented reality piece, the magazine, and embedded content, and like we just told the story of our drops, drop 1, drop 2, drop 3, and then it was like a physical magazine that you could see the pictures, but then like there was embedded video content from behind the scenes.
I still think it's so incredible that at such an early place in your like story that you took really big action on like the crumbs that you're getting from people around you, right? And I know that from what you had said earlier about, kind of like that trifecta that you got from the YouTube video, that like set a foundation for everything the brand. So like what would you say are like the tenets or like the pillars for everything the brand? Like as you've developed it, obviously it's not being foreign anymore, right? That's not the mission. But like tell us a little bit more about, what you're looking to accomplish? What's the foundation of that brand specifically?
Yeah, so like at that time where I was really spending time like thinking, what does this mean to me? What do I want to do? Like this is going to be directly attached to myself, and it's like the thing that kept coming back was, what's your everything, right? Like, and for me it was like, this is my everything. I really enjoy the process of building this company and like merging the creative aspect of creating clothing and the business aspect of like, you know, trying to build and scale a business.
Yeah.
And then, you know, how we can leverage technology to do the same thing, you know, like the technology for the real utility of it, but the technology on the creative side with the augmented reality. We're able to do both in that sense as well.
Why is it so important for you that there's space to do both entrepreneurship, business, but then also the creative spaces?
I fundamentally believe humans are multifaceted. And I feel like the world that we were taught is that like you have a job, you work that job 40 years, one path, and that's what you do. That's who you are. And I don't feel like I'm one thing.
Got you.
Right? Like I feel like you can be a businessman, you can be an athlete, you can be, you know, a creative, an artist, whatever that means. You can like, and you know what I mean? Like there's room because like we're human. Like we're not just one thing, right? Like we have passions, we have things that we care about. And I wanted to create an environment where I could do those things. And, you know, like having that creative outlet, but then also producing something to the world. And like this is something that I made that like we're producing it to the world, but we're also going to treat it like a business and scale it and try to do the things the right way. And it's funny because for me, getting into tech was, yes, it was about the money, but it was also like I made it a point to work at startups, like small startups, because I wanted to watch them scale companies. I wanted to be at a place that was a part of like a growing company, like what decisions are made.
So you were trying to learn from osmosis, like literally being in those environments, because that was what you were going to do.
Like I need to be 1 or 2 degrees removed from like the CEO.
Wow.
Like my first corporate job was like, I was like 2 degrees removed from the CEO. Like
I just wanted to be a boss. I just wanted to be a manager and tell somebody else what to do. But I didn't want to be next to the CEO because like don't micromanage me too much.
Well, and it's just like understanding, like hearing the conversations, like hearing what, like, you know, what
the perspectives.
Exactly.
How they talk, how like how they think, how they look at problems, how they communicate. 100%.
Exactly. And then take those learnings and apply them to like
have they been helpful?
Extremely. You just find like you learn that. And I really, you see this on Twitter and stuff all the time. Like nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah, right? Everybody's figuring it out.
Everyone's figuring, and
that's the biggest scam about adulthood.
It's so true. In corporate, it's so true in every level. It's so true. Like everyone's just like, when a problem comes, you have to figure it out. Every business, like problems are happening every single day.
All the time.
You just have to figure them out. Right? Like nothing is going perfectly ever. Like,
but I think also you've mentioned that it's not just about the business for you. Like philanthropy is a really big part of your story that I think when I initially came across like everything the brand, I didn't realize how important philanthropy was to you. Like you talked about the partnership with Afrah earlier. Tell us a little bit more about what that partnership is, what you guys have been able to do together, and why that's so core to your business.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, this is like, it's really like everything is a platform at the end of the day, and it's a platform for people to showcase what their everything is and tell that story. And the way my approach to scaling it and growing this company is strictly through taking on projects that are my everything, but giving people the opportunity to share theirs as well. Yeah. Something
like creating a platform.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, philanthropy, especially, you know, in regards to the Horn of Africa, have always been super important to me from a young age. Like, just like I said, being Eritrean American, first generation, like we all experience, like we have family members who are constantly coming, you know, going through these really like dangerous, treacherous journeys, like risking their lives, right?
For a chance at freedom or a decent life.
For a better life, right? Yeah. And, you know, like if you've ever, like growing up in the Bay Area, we had a huge Eritrean population, right? Like growing up, it wasn't just Eritrean Muslims that we grew up around. It was like, no, we grew up around Eritreans in general, Eritrean Muslims, Christians. And you get to meet more folks and like learn more stories and hear more folks, family members come and tell you what they went through, like real life things. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you run away from a country and you're leaving with nothing and you're just hoping that someone helps you kind of thing, like hearing those types of stories, right? Like having people who have been sold into slavery, knowing those stories, knowing that people are being caught, being imprisoned and like disappear. Like those are sort of, you know, like Lampedusa, like when the boat capsized on the way to Italy, those types of things. Like I think, like, I don't know what it was, but it really affected me. I felt like I was so privileged to have the opportunity I had being born and raised out here, even though we had our own issues, struggles, right? Like, of course, and that's does. Life. But it's just like, first it was just like, alhamdulillah, like, you know, like I'm blessed, but at the same time it's like, okay, what can I do to, you know, change the situation? Like how can we, and this is like a pretty young age, in like in high school, a friend of mine and I started, like we had a good amount of Eritreans at our school and we started the Eritrean Student Association, and our entire premise was to like raise money to like help in different causes, whether it was refugees, whether it was people back home, and then Eritrea is a little bit of a difficult place to like donate to because the government's very hands-on, and so we wanted to like. We threw bake sales and like stuff on campus, like getting the school involved. And,
you
like,
guys were getting it out the mud.
We were real popular at our school too. So like we had like influence, and so like people were buying. Like we raised $1,000 in a semester at high school.
That's crazy.
Right, and like donated all of it to like a missionary that was to some nuns who were taking care of orphan children. Right,
wow.
And like I just never forget like people minimize certain impact, right? Oh, $1,000 is nice, whatever. But then like when you remember like conversion rates at that point, like $1 was 44 nafa.
Yeah.
$1,000 is 44,000 alpha.
Yeah.
Like, and just thinking about how far that could go for, folks who really need it. And so, like, I think that experience really kind of, like, lit that fire. Like, okay, I can have real world impact. You just got to figure out how to do it and find, like, how you do it at scale.
Yeah.
So for me, it was, like, always wanted to, like, continue that element of my life and, like, figure out, like, how can we, continue to give back and, be the change we want to see.
Yeah.
And I felt like, while scaling this platform, while scaling this company, we've built a strong audience and we've built a strong community. And like, I want to introduce this new partnership with Araha, and like finding that strategy, right? It's like, it's very difficult to be here and do stuff halfway across the world. Yeah. But it's like, there's organizations who are doing that every day. Araha has been operating for 20 plus years, doing so many different projects. Wow. So to me, I was just like, okay, why don't we just leverage their infrastructure? Right?
Strategic planning, even in philanthropy,
but really though, like why don't, it's like we can just leverage their infrastructure, do a partnership, and then like do projects as they come.
Yeah.
Right. And so like alhamdulillah, like it was something that like it's been a year in the works, if not more, but something that I've been planning for a long time. And so like now that it's official, super excited to get started. And this new collection is kind of like setting that trend. And like,
yeah, we're wearing the new collection right now. Mashallah. You like the drip? Mashallah.
Mashallah. So inshallah, like, we want to, we're starting off small, trying to like, housing projects, building homes for refugees now.
And the drop contributes, some of the proceeds go towards that, right?
Exactly.
Mashallah.
Proceeds, like partial proceeds of every collection now is going to be going towards these types of development projects as we scale. And then also with the advent, like I said, new technology changing so often, we're going to incorporate like, these new technologies, blockchain.
Now this is what I want to talk about, because I know you're like the Steve Jobs of the Eritrean Muslim community, mashallah.
No. I don't know about that. But.
No, bro. So I really do want to understand, like, what's your vision for leveraging like tech and combining like tech and your brand in the future? Because whatever you want, I don't even understand it, but I'm trying to be there too.
Yeah. I mean, so it's like just leveraging, a lot of these technologies are very new. So it's like, how can we leverage these technologies at scale, and like, what does that impact for our business? And it's just finding a use case, finding something. We started off like, okay, we had this magazine, right? We sold the magazine for $100. I took that idea directly from Nick.
When he was selling that album for $100?
Yeah, Crenshaw sold $100. He just put it out.
But it was genius.
It was amazing. It did amazing. So I was like, okay, I think we should take that same model, but then we have embedded content in these magazines. So this is not just a magazine. This is like we created an app. Amon built our app, and then there was.
Y'all had an app?
Everything, the app was on the App Store.
Everything is that?
No, not anymore. Not today. So we transitioned since then, but like we were app based AR, which was everything built in house.
And you guys have done that for other companies as well too.
Not built apps, but like we've created AR experiences.
AR experiences,
exactly. Yeah, we've built AR experiences for other artists. We're in talks right now with certain companies.
Okay.
So inshallah next year will be some big announcements coming. But yeah, like it's looking for what is the utility? What is the use case for this? Like, is there real value here? Okay, and then how do we create that value? Yeah. And then right now we're seeing augmented reality is a great marketing tool, right? Yeah. Like it's a shared experience in your physical space from the comfort of your home, outside, wherever you are. But then like there's camera functionality that you can record and then share across your social media. And then it allows other folks to know that like, hey, like I bought this, I was a part of this community, or I bought this product, this is what it came with. We're gonna be able to, inshallah into next year, mint these AR experiences and allow for people to own them. So instead of it just being hosted on our website or attached to like
original ownership,
now you're gonna own it and it's gonna be backed up on the blockchain. And so then that will be your ticket to like exclusive everything.
Do you think like all companies are moving this direction?
They've already started.
They've already started.
Companies have already, so like in the web.
Give me an example.
And are you familiar with Gary Vee?
Yeah,
Gary Vaynerchuk. So Gary Vee has an entire like ecosystem in Web3.
You're kidding?
No, he's huge. Gary Vee, like
and Gary Vee called a lot of technical moves.
Gary Vee is one of the first people I ever heard talk about crypto ever. Same, I want to say it was him and Nip like at the same time. Like when I got into like cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, it was like through them two specifically.
So if you're a business owner, you absolutely, if you want to stay relevant, you absolutely need to be thinking about these emerging technologies.
It's going to be embedded in our everyday life as just regular people. Even if you're not in tech, you're going to be using these types of technologies without realizing them. But if you are looking to start a business, like there has to be some type of tech component, in my opinion, it
goes back to that trifecta that you talked about.
And shout out Steve Stoute. but it really though, like, it really goes back to understanding that like you need like the audience and like how do you get your audience like, you know, in business total addressable market, how do you increase your total addressable market, how do you increase your reach, right? It just goes back to like these technologies are going to allow you to do that, but also give you ownership over your things, right? So now I'm not going to be reliant on a Facebook or a Meta.
It's cutting out the middleman and giving us all equal playing field to take advantage.
Shout out Nip.
It feels like the way you talk about it, like this is going to be the next big boom.
100%. No, it's funny because it already is. But then like we're gonna see like new like the big companies like are gonna release products, but like a bunch of new companies are coming, and then you're gonna see the scams fall out. So like what I like to equate this time to is the .com boom in the early 2000s and then the .com crash in the early 2000s, right? Like in the late 90s, everybody was gung-ho about the internet, and then everything crashed in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But then like it takes time for users to get acclimated. It wasn't until like maybe between 04 and 06 that people started really using the internet.
Yeah.
But the internet had been out for a while. Same thing with this. These technologies have been out for a while, but it's going to take time for like everyday people to get on these platforms. But then this next generation behind us, and even the ones behind them, they're already in it. It's their world. That's like their
Fortnite, for example.
Fortnite,
my brother
Roblox.
loves Fortnite. Oh my God.
Yep. Fortnite, Roblox, like things that like people are buying like metaphysical things like clothing on for a game character.
So crazy
right?
to me.
But now brands, Nike, they bought a company basically that's doing complete Web3 clothing. Complete.
So now people are trying to be fly in Web3.
Not trying to, are.
They are.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for example, going back to just to tie it all back in, if you remember the Meta Ray-Bans collab I mentioned earlier. So now there's going to be clothing where if you have those glasses, you'll see somebody walking and you'll see added things onto their clothes that you can't see in real life.
So like Louis and Gucci about to be a thing of the past, like bro, but on my Ray-Bans, like you're not rocking the latest whatever.
I'm sure they'll find a way to implement these technologies as well if they haven't already.
Wow.
But every brand, every big company is doing something like people are buying real estate in Web3,
I heard about
right?
that, and I was like, y'all are buying fake land and fake universes
with real money.
But it's real money. It's real money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I couldn't believe it. Like, you think that's going to be mainstream?
I don't know if that's going to be mainstream. Like I said, a lot of these ideas we're seeing are ideas.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to say what's going to last and what's not because it's so early.
But for sure, change is coming.
Oh, but the technology itself is emerging as well. So yes, like things are going to be different. But things always change, right? Nothing ever stays the same. So
for folks who are listening who are kind of like me, like blown away, like, okay, so there's all this tech stuff. I don't even know where to start. We've skipped, at least if you're like me, you skip the Afro tech sessions about Web3 because you're like, I'm not a programmer, right? Like, what is like a small next step that we can do?
Like YouTube, like just like, you know how everybody goes to YouTube University these days, right?
Yeah.
Just finding there's so many like high level, like I think Gary Vee has like a bunch of great, you know, videos just kind of describing blockchain technology at a high level.
So like just getting informed, understanding
really
what's going on.
Just getting informed, right? Like leverage social media. Like there's a lot of people doing a lot of really cool things that you might know that you just don't realize, right?
I didn't know you were doing all of this.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of things are going to be coming out. So like our goal, like my goal at the end of the day in terms of like, you know, our personal trifecta, the everything trifecta with the fashion or being the culture, the storytelling being like our film aspect, and the technology being our augmented reality, is to really tie them all in to where, you know, we can, but then all be separate businesses at the same time. So like our technology is now becoming a separate business where we're going to be able to create augmented reality experiences for other organizations and businesses as well. Everything the brand, obviously, that's our foundation. That's where we started.
Yeah.
And then the storytelling, like continue to tell stories, but then like, you know, we do have big goals of like getting big box movie theaters, or production companies, and like working like, you know, Netflix and Hulu, like that.
I'll be on Netflix too. Y'all just watch it. It's our first episode, but I'm gonna be there with you.
100%. But I really feel that we have, like, our generation and the generation after us have like the tools and the access to get to where we need to go. I really truly believe we have everything. We already have everything we need. It's just a matter of time.
I love that, mashallah. Okay, let the people know where they can find you and how they can support you.
Yeah.
I think the philanthropy, and if they just want to stay in touch, because we know you're on the big and better things, inshallah.
Definitely follow Everything the Brand on Instagram and Twitter. Follow Abdulalim Jemal, Instagram, Twitter as well. Check us out at everythingthebrand.com. You know, like I said, this upcoming collection is super important. Like, it's our first cut and sew collection. Everything is from scratch. Nothing was like imported from China or anything. Every detail, just like, I'm a shameless plug, like the button work itself.
No, the pants have like a gold zipper, and even I was like, this is a good touch.
And everything is cut and sew. Like I picked out fabric, we designed it in a certain way, we sewed it a certain way, all here locally, and so super excited about that. And then to tie that all in with the Araha partnership and that announcement, and for partial proceeds moving forward, going towards you know, development projects in the Horn of Africa. So join us, buy from us, go to everythingthebrand.com. Bye.
We will, and will.
100%.
But Jazakallah khair for coming.
No, thank you so much. I'm honored to be the first guest. I'm number one. I'm not gonna forget that. You know, when you big time, you get big fuck. I'm like, hey, no, I was the first one now. First one now.
All right, Soldier Boy.
Hey, me and Soldier like this.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, inshallah. Until the next time, we're gonna have to interview again.
100%.
See how the next one's going.
100%.
All right, take care. Thanks again for watching, you guys.